Charlemagne the God's an interesting character, isn't he? Joe Biden goes on his show, and Charlemagne and he are going at it. They're asking questions. It's very respectful. Charlemagne the God obviously is a Democrat, a lefty. And he says to Joe Biden, who apparently wanted to cut the interview short, wait, come, there's some more things I want to ask you, It's a whole lot of things I want to ask you. And Joe Biden said, if you don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or Donald Trump, you ain't really black. Check it out.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Notice Charlemagne the God's response. Listen to his response.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
Because no. It's not about that. It's not about that. The man just insulted you. He just told you, unless you vote for me as a Democrat, you, quote, ain't really black, close quote, using the word ain't, like Joe Biden uses the word ain't when he's sitting around the table in Delaware. How insulting, how condescending. I'm not black unless I see the world the way you see it. I'm not black unless I vote to tax, to spend, to regulate, to expand the welfare state to the point where it destroys the nuclear intact family, a phenomenon that has more hurt black families than anybody else, because as I've said a million times, 70% of black kids enter the world without a father married to the mother. If I don't pull the lever for that party that's destroying the nuclear intact family, that's jacking up prices, jacking up taxes, my dad used to tell me, I never got a job from a poor person. And when you take taxes from a rich person, there's less money for jobs, less money for investments. So unless I see the world the way Joe Biden sees it, I ain't really black. And Charlemagne the God wasn't even offended. So now Charlemagne the God is interviewing Kamala Harris. And here's what happened.
Joe Manchin, no. I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
This happened because Joe Manchin voted against the Build Back Better bill. Build Back Better. Don't you love that? I wonder if they focus group that. Build Back Better. BBB. Better Business Bureau. Build Back Better. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Joe Manchin voted against it. Joe Manchin is from West Virginia, a state that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. He's a Democrat. Somehow, some way, he's managed to get elected and remain respected there. And as a consequence, because most people in West Virginia do not like Build Back Better, he's been skeptical and finally voted against it. Now, believe me, the bill ain't dead, to use Joe Biden's term, ain't. The bill ain't dead. All they're gonna do is bust it up in little pieces and get it passed little by little by little to get something done. Never mind, it'll still be taxing and spending and expanding government. And by the way, before we get back to Charlemagne the God, is anybody in D.C. interested in shrinking government? It's all about how much bigger it's going to get and when. Even on the Republican side. Is anybody interested in shrinking government? Even when Donald Trump was president, it was about infrastructure. Let me ask you something. Why is it my job in California to make sure a bridge in Minnesota is built? Why is that my job? You know, James Monroe was our 5th president. I wasn't there. But he cast one veto in his presidency. And the veto was against the expansion of the Cumberland Road. Why? He felt it wasn't Congress's job to expand a road, even though the road would go through Virginia, his home state, and would economically benefit his home state. He vetoed it. He said, read the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Maybe someday they'll make a movie out of it. Read the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Nothing in there about taking money out of this person's pocket and putting it into that person's pocket for infrastructure. But now it's just water, wet, sky is blue, grass is green, and we need to have infrastructure. The government, Article 1, Section 8, federal government, has a limited number of duties and responsibilities, and infrastructure, to quote Joe Biden, ain't one of them. Let's get back to Charlemagne the God. I want to know who the real president is. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin? And Kamala Harris was not amused.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I don't think the Vice President can hear you. It's Simone. so sorry, Charlamagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear.
That's Kamala's aide trying to get out of the interview because it's going south.
Hear me.
We'll wrap up. You can hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. We got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm
I'm sorry, we got to wrap. Let's get out of here. Don't like the question. Let's get out of here. But the question was asked, and Kamala Harris almost had an obligation to answer it and did.
sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me. Y'all see that?
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the
I
real?
can hear you.
So who's
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
I really-
Come on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't
No,
tell.
no.
Come on, man. Come on, Charlemagne.
No.
No. Just in case you don't know, no.
It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican.
Whoa. And don't start talking like a Republican. What does that mean? If I ask you a question as to whether or not Joe Biden has enough power and influence to get Build Back Better done despite Joe Manchin's resistance, I'm talking like a Republican, condescending, and once again, Charlemagne the God doesn't get upset.
Again, about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce black child poverty by 50% on.
No, it won't. Here's what the child credit wants to do under Joe Biden. Reverse the welfare reform that was passed by Bill Clinton that requires work in order for you to get a tax credit. Think about it. Tax credit. Unless you're working and paying taxes, how can you get a tax credit? What they want to do is give you a certain amount of money whether you work or not. In other words, welfare. Once again, making it easier and easier for a woman to marry the government and for a man to abandon his financial and moral responsibility. But they claim it's going to reduce child poverty by half. Read some studies from the Heritage Foundation, and they say the opposite, but then they're conservative.
On track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations and require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras.
Okay. We're going to do these investigations in chokeholds, have body cameras. By the way, it's not the federal government's job to buy body cameras for local authorities. It's local authorities' job. But beyond that, this is all this attack on the police. And you know what this has resulted in? It's called the Ferguson effect, or more recently, the George Floyd effect. Cops pull back. Think about it, you're a cop. And especially a white cop, or even a black cop. You're an Uncle Tom, or you're a Hispanic cop, you're a Tio Taco, so it doesn't really matter. You're a cop, and you're being accused of engaging in systemic racism. Now, much of police work is discretionary. You're driving around in your squad car, you see something that looks suspicious, you get out, you investigate. You might try and stop crime before it happens. What's the upside? You're gonna get out of your car, you're gonna have an interaction, increase the chances of somebody with a cell phone will shoot something, take it out of context. Next thing you know, you're being accused of engaging in, wait for it, systemic racism. So what's happening? Cops are pulling back. They're not engaging in proactive policing. When Rahm Emanuel was mayor of Chicago, he said the Chicago police, for fear of being called systemically racist, have gone fetal. His expression, not mine. I'm in LA. Burglaries are up. Shootings are up. Murders are up. Car thefts are up. But you know what's down? Arrests. How can arrests be down? Because cops are pulling back, and more people aren't even bothering to call the cops because they know there's a revolving door. You have this cashless bail, soft on crime DAs that don't believe that criminals are really criminals. They're just victims of society. But let's get back. I digress.
It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and paint because our babies are suffering because of that.
Our babies are suffering because so many of them are entering the world without a father married to the mother. Has she said a word about that? Anything? I said this again. In 1965, 25% of black children entered the world without a father married to the mother. Forget about Larry Elder. Barack Obama, one more time, said a kid raised without a father is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. Now, the question Kamala Harris ought to be asking, it's not about lead paint. She ought to be asking, how do we go from 25% of black kids entering the world in 1965 to 70% now? 8% of white kids entered the world without a father married to the mother in 1965. 25% of white kids now entered the world without a father married to the mother. The reason the 25% number is relevant is because there was a booklet published by a man named Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who worked then for the Labor Department, later on became a New York senator, Democrat. And he talked about the 25% and attributed it to slavery and Jim Crow, but talked about how alarming that number was. Well, now 25% of white kids enter the world without a father married to the mother. 50% of Hispanic kids do. 40% of all Americans enter the world without a father married to the mother, and we're having a conversation about lead paint?
It is the work of saying people who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity that anybody else does.
What's that even mean? People who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity anybody else does? Meaning seat cushions? Meaning flat screen TVs? I have no idea what she's even talking about. Do you? By the way, when's the last time you think she rode public transportation? I'm just saying.
So let's improve that system. It is the work of...
Let's improve that system. It's the federal government's job to improve the system of people who ride in public transit. What?
Saying that we have got to bring down prescription drug costs.
Now, Republicans say the same kind of nonsense. We have got to bring down prescription drug costs. You can just wave a magic wand and bring down costs. Do you know how much it costs to go from research and development to put a drug on the market? It costs a boatload of money. So you're going to deny drug companies profits because you think the prices are too high? There's only one way to reduce prices, to increase accessibility, and to improve quality. It's called, wait for it, competition, free markets. And one of the leaders of their party is Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist. And by the way, when Kamala Harris was in the Senate, her voting record was more left-wing than Bernie Sanders. And now they're talking about bringing down costs. I got a headache. I need a pill.
Because folks who have diabetes should not be dying because they don't have enough money in their pocket. It's about saying black maternal mortality is a real issue that must be treated by everybody, including the White House, as a serious issue.
One of the reasons why black mortality is so high, why black life expectancy is lower than white life expectancy, homicide. Nearly 50% of the homicide victims in this country are black. At 13% of the population, it reduces life expectancy when you get killed. But we're not talking about that, are we?
I hear the frustration, but let's not deny the impact that we've had.
Okay. She rattles off all this stuff that will do nothing, and then at the end of this, Charlemagne the God basically grovels. Madam Vice President, oh, that's the one I want to see. That's the woman I love. That's the Kamala Harris that I can get behind.
And agree also that there is a whole lot more work to be done. And it is not easy to do, but we will not
It is not easy to do, but we're not going to give up.
give up. And I will not give up.
I just want you to know that Madam Vice President, that Kamala Harris, that's the one I like. That's the one that was putting the pressure on people in Senate hearings. That's the one I'd like to see more often out here in these streets. Thank you for joining us, Madam Vice President.
Oh, Madam Vice President, that's the one I want to hear. That passion, that grit, that determination. Nothing at all about crime, which is disproportionately hurting black people. Nothing at all about the failure of the Democratic Party to support choice in schools. I'm in California. 75% of black boys cannot read at state levels of proficiency. And the math scores are even worse. Did he ask her about why the Democrats don't support school choice? Nothing at all about the destruction of families, as I said earlier. But hey, we got that lead paint out. That's a Kamala Harris I want to see. I'm Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. I'll see you next time. And get the lead out.